Well, thank you very much. Maybe I'll start introducing myself. So I'm Olivier Verscheure. I'm the director of the Swiss Data Science Center. I'm a professor of computer science at EPFL. And this is basically, what I'm going to present is a 7-minute pitch. Two of the five, it says five big obstacles, but I will really go into two of the big obstacles to data and AI that I have witnessed in the past 25 years. So, I will scan through a lot of these slides. So high expectations towards AI, not met today. You might have seen some of those reports. One of them says that 66% of leaders are ambivalent or dissatisfied with the progress on AI. And actually, there is a new report from MIT late 2025 that basically concluded that 95% of the Gen AI, so generative AI use cases, failed. And there are multiple reasons for that, most of which can be fixed. But I want to focus maybe on two of them out of the five I said. So the first one is about the data. And many companies today want to do data science or want to do AI, but they don't treat data as a strategic asset of the enterprise. And the second one is about collaborating hand in hand with the different business units. And I'll talk about my own experience. So I was at IBM Research for many, many years. I was at IBM Research for 17 years. And towards the last 6, 7 years or 5 years of my career at IBM, I moved to Dublin to help put a new research lab together in Dublin, Ireland. And when we got there, basically, we were working directly with the Dublin City Council. It was at the time, I mean, you might remember the time of, the IBM Smarter Cities. And of course, we knew we had to do something about cities. So, I usually put this picture of O'Connell Bridge in Dublin, and I ask, what do you actually see? And of course, you see, buses, you see pedestrians, you see traffic lights. What we realized very quickly is that, there was data behind all of these entities. And so we, as I said, we worked very closely with the Dublin City Council. So we were going, door after door, to the traffic team, and they were basically telling us, hey, we have data. We usually don't look at it, but if you wanna have it, I mean, knock yourself out. Then we were knocking on the other door, maybe the Dublin buses, and they were telling us the same thing. It's not big data. We're not sure of the value of this data, but hey, knock yourself out. And so we went back to the lab, armed with all these data sets, and we could build very quickly basically a data hub. So this data was emanating from the city, and we went back with this visualization to the city council. They were like, "Wow, okay, we didn't realize there was so much data that was actually coming out of the city at any point in time." And so we were like, this is great. Data is the oil of the 21st century. By the way, this was back in 2010, so that was 15 years back. But we were very happy that we had access to all of this data, and we were like, okay, you know what? We're going to fix the problem of mobility within Dublin. But of course, very quickly, we realized as soon as we started playing with the data that, big data doesn't necessarily mean that you have the right useful data at your disposal to draw the right insights and conclusions. And, basically what happened then, of course, we realized that, data is the new oil, yes, but like oil, it has to be refined. And we realized very quickly that for this oil or the data to be refined, we had to collaborate with the people, with the domain experts, basically. So we went back to the Dublin City Council, and, they were a bit in distress because they were like, we have a job to do. We have a business run. I'm not sure the data is necessarily something that should be part of our day-to-day job, but we could convince them that, each one after the other to actually help us out trying to understand the data and make use of it. And not only understanding, but the question was, we had access to all this data. We had massive amounts of data that were streaming into the IBM office. And I'll just give you an idea of, the raw data that we got. And this is probably the most simple data because can be visualized, in this case on Google Earth, is the geospatial data of the Dublin buses. Each green dot here is basically a bus saying, I'm here at that particular location with that particular driver, with that many people on the bus, and so on and so forth. And each bus, send a signal every 30 seconds. So this is about a 15 to 20 minute view of the greater Dublin city area. And if you zoom in on one particular part of this region, which is basically what the initial photo was showing, this the O'Connell Bridge here, you see all these data points, mostly on roads. Of course, you have, well, the circles are not well positioned, but you have basically green points in the river. You have green points in the river here as well. You have a lot of green points in the building here, and so we realized, of course, there was no bus in the river. So the point wasn't that. The question was, that's easy to fix. We figured that, points in the river could be either mapped to the closest road or just dropped. But we had also, and again, the circles are not well positioned, but if you see, there are some green points here on roads, here as well, that are actually that do not correspond to a bus. So we had a lot of issues with the data that we had to actually figure out what we did with these data points. First of all, detecting that these are not real buses, and understanding what to do with them. But at the end of the day, and it took a massive amount of effort to actually take all this data and actually build what we call this, situational awareness dashboard or situational intelligence dashboard, where we collect all this data and we extract KPIs that, we showed to the city council. And by the way, before doing any kind of machine learning or AI, this is really what brought most value to the Dublin City Council. This was the first time that they could actually see across all these data silos and extract the right insights such that they could actually make decisions. By the way, you fast forward 10 to 15 years, and this is something that we have done as part of the Swiss Data Science Center. It was the same story with 𝗏𝗏 Group. And 𝗏𝗏, has tried to get into machine learning and AI, and it was very difficult for any of those projects to take off either, and again, there are other obstacles like, lack of trust and, which is, slowing down adoption and other things like that. And here we realized that this was the entry door to, gaining the trust from the domain experts in the data that was being collected. And it's again the same story as what we did with Dublin City, which was giving access to the domain experts that have to make decision on the plan of a real-time situational awareness dashboard. And by the way, this was just augmented with a replay functionality. So a domain expert could actually replay up to, I think, 24 hours in the past to see what happened to a plant when maybe a problem was detected. And by the way, this was massive amounts of data. This is 1.7 billion observations per day that went into this dashboard, summarized this information visually, let domain experts replay data. And I will just end with this main message: from data to value. And this is, not something necessarily data scientists from EPFL want to hear, right? The new students that are in this data science master program, which is that, in a data science project, 80% of the effort goes into taking the raw data, identifying the raw data, and turning it into clean, directly actionable data or information. 80% of the effort sits there, while 20% of the effort is on building ML and AI models on top.
So if you're interested in exploring more of those topics, I urge you to join our 5 days deep dive course. is called ENID, Enabling Innovation in Data Science, which will happen in January 2026, and during which you will have the chance to learn from our experience, the experience that Olivier talked about, collaborating with companies in Switzerland. You will learn about the methods of data science, but you will also be able to use them yourself during hands-on sessions. You will learn more about the use cases that Olivier presented and more that we collaborated upon at SDSC. Some of our partners with whom we collaborated will come to the course and present the use case themselves. You will be able to join other executives in Switzerland to create business connections. And finally, you will get a certification, a short course certification by the end of the course. So please come with your AI enthusiasm and some vision for business impact. You can bring your own laptop. You have to bring your own laptop, actually. There will be no expectation for you to code anything. There's no need for prior coding experience. We will actually provide all the tools necessary during the course. And as of today, there's actually an end of the year discount. So please secure your spot. And to give you, just if you can change the slides, to give you an idea about how the course will be set. As I said, it's a 5 days course, which will span over 3 weeks. So there's going to be a few consecutive days, but overall the course will span over 3 weeks between January 23rd and February 6th, 2026. I'm not going to go too much into details about what we're going to learn during the entire course, but just to give you an idea about what we will do day 3, for instance. I'm responsible for the explainability and bias mitigation course, which talks about a very important topic in AI nowadays, which is how to interpret models and how to make sure that they do what they are set to do, right? And that's an especially important thing to measure impact of your data science journeys, and to make sure that they don't infringe on rules, for instance. So please join us. If you can change the slide. Yes, please join us for this course. Again, this will happen in January 23rd. There's an end of the year discount, very important. And this will happen at Andreasturm, next to Oerlikon Station, which is quite convenient to reach by any kind of transport. If you want to secure your seat, you can follow this QR code that is on the slide there. And do not forget to join our next executive brief, which will happen, help me there, Anna, probably the 8th. Exactly, January 8th. Exactly. Thanks a lot for joining, everyone. And if you have any question, please shoot to either Olivier and myself. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right, goodbye. Thank you.